One of the materialist argument for searching for that unifying fundamental truth is that someday through experiments like the particle accelerators in Geneva and elsewhere, or some other revelation will give us a glimpse of the fundamental reality, likely in the form of some particle or phenomenon of the unifying principle in experience to explain this reality. The second materialist argument has been that consciousness is a useful feature produced by the brains and just a culmination in the process of evolution, that somehow by accident or intelligent design assembled the fundamental matter in a way that allowed for this first person inner experience. An argument which absolutely holds no fundamental utility, as even without consciousness, we know insentient matter is very well capable of multiplying and adapting itself. That's how we know the universe around us has come to exist and conscious life has followed billions of years later. In regards to the first argument, they got something in 2012 that they named the God particle, which essentially was discovered as a fundamental particle generated by a field called the Higgs field, named after the originating physicist Peter Higgs. This particle was discovered as part of the particle collision experiments at the CERN LHC in Geneva. I won't get into the science of it, but the gist was that this particle belongs to a uniform field that permeates reality, and it basically gives mass to the rest of the particles that form our 3D reality. In essence, it is the ground for the universe at the most subtle material level of existence. Basically, just another particle to explain the others. But does it explain our existence, our first person experience, our purpose here in this world where we exist for a while but then ultimately die off to leave everything behind? Because humans have accomplished whatever they have until to the point of conducting such experiments only because of our conscious existence. So, this seems to be the greatest puzzle for science to tackle, which is also our only edge that has progressed us so far in the line of evolution. On the second argument, that consciousness is somehow produced by a combination of these particles for which they have literally no sound logic or no explanation, that exactly where in our brain is the connection that explains the electrical firing of neurons that somehow correlates to this first person conscious experience, also famously known as the hard problem of consciousness, a term coined by Professor David Chalmers in the 90s. We have figured out the science pretty well by now, that we can map any form of electrical or mechanical activity to all forms of sophisticated machines we use on a daily basis in our society. Literally all of our lives are run by these machines today. Like we know how firing of LED panels in televisions or other digital devices these days generates the images we see. I mean, you get the idea. We know how the science correlates. But when it comes to consciousness, the primary marker of our existence, because without consciousness, there's no us, no experience, and no existence of anything we can imagine at any given moment. We are alive because we are conscious. And yet, there is no evidence of what they call neural correlates that connects how and where and what exactly is happening in our brains, causing this inner world 3D sensory first person experience. And the materialist argument is not a new one, but the West is fairly new to it. Thousands of years ago in India, there was an order of materialist philosophers called the Vaisheshikas. They pretty much defined the atom and how it is a fundamental building block of the universe, and that everything arises from these atoms. But yet, even they couldn't reason out how these atoms could result in consciousness. And so it seems to be a persisting puzzle even today with all the modern means at our disposal. But many physicists and neuroscientists in recent times are changing sides and coming to believe that the ancient proponents of consciousness as the fundamental may be right. That there is a fundamental reality which is irreducible and responsible for this world of objects. And that it cannot be observed in the way we observe this world, because it is the ultimate subject, which we established in the last video, that it cannot be an object of observation. Now here comes in the argument for consciousness as the fundamental. Let's explore a simple example. We know this much, that mathematics is done by someone like us, a conscious being capable of intelligence, or by something like a machine, like a simple calculator, or complex ones like the computers of our day, which are ultimately built by a conscious being. Mathematics is usually the fundamental language in first postulating any scientific argument, and then it is verified or expressed through other branches of science. Because in essence, the entire universal engine is running on math as the fundamental code. All the intelligence for the just perfect conditions for this universe to exist, from the primal particles to the DNA that creates life, and all of us, can be expressed by mathematics. And math, as we established earlier, can only be done in presence of objects of knowledge that can be processed or counted through the language. And most importantly, a knower of the language who is doing the math. And here, quantum physics directly comes in handy by pointing to the fact that the reality as we see it is being created by the observer effect and not the other way around, implying that the material reality is nothing but an effect of the observer. Again, I won't go into the science because that is not my expertise. My business is with consciousness alone. But in very simple terms, out of the infinite pool of possibilities in the quantum field, something comes into existence directly upon observation of that something by an observer. So how is it that this reality is created by the observer effect? Consciousness in its very primal essence is awareness, bare awareness. Like water that has an intrinsic property of being wet just by its presence. Similarly, awareness has this intrinsic nature to be just aware, bare presence. But aware of what? Primarily and fundamentally itself. And then something else, which is conditional because its existence is not caused by anything prior to be there. And here's the subtle connection to quantum physics. Like I said earlier, to cause something to appear according to quantum physics requires knowledge. And knowledge requires the observer. An observer that can observe or be aware. And so, awareness becomes the fundamental and prerequisite for anything to exist in the first place. So awareness is the irreducible primal cause itself. Now let's consider science for a moment. How does it actually operate? It always explains something gross in terms of breaking it down into more subtler components. And all this cannot be accomplished without an observer to do the science. The pure awareness is the irreducible absolute subject or observer of ultimately all science as well. And so, if it could, upon reaching this awareness as an object of knowledge, just to consider, all it'll find is just pure awareness and nothing further. Because even science has a limit where it can no longer break anything further down to explain it, which in itself, again, is an infinite rabbit hole. So, how then can we expect the materialist tools to illustrate that which even transcends this objective universe? The objective universe, which is just an effect of that primal being itself. So, I hope you see the dilemma by now. Now, then, if in case science eventually fails in its endeavors, then how is this ultimate reality revealed? By what I said earlier. Awareness is primarily self revealing and is not directly dependent on any object to be revealed. By manifesting as itself in various forms like us, it reveals itself to itself. It's like the sun, which is the source of light itself and is self luminous, doesn't need anything else to illumine and in turn illumines everything else. Consciousness is the ultimate revealer, first itself and then everything else if it wants to, because its existence is not dependent on any object. The objects are just an additional accessory entertainment, if you will. If there is this movie of the universe being projected, it has no point or existential origin unless there is an observer causing it to exist. That one supreme observer is the real essence. The observed, all this, is just the reflection. I'll see you in the next one. God bless and peace to you all.